Contempt is the most poisonous emotion in any relationship, friendship, or dynamic. It's the subtle sneer, the dismissive tone, the feeling of being looked down on or treated as less. It's not just disrespect. It's an attempt to erase your value and convince you that you're unworthy of respect, affection, or even basic decency. When someone shows you contempt, they want to see if you'll shrink, chase, or beg for their approval. But the real power comes when you flip that script, when you refuse to let their coldness define your worth and instead make them question why they ever thought you'd tolerate it. This isn't about revenge or games. It's about self-mastery and creating a shift so undeniable that the person who once took you for granted has no choice but to regret their actions. In this video, I'll break down how to spot contempt, why chasing always backfires, and the exact steps to reclaim your value, set new boundaries, and become the one who is missed, respected, and never treated with contempt again. If you're ready to go from underestimated to unforgettable, this is your blueprint. Seeing through contempt means looking past the obvious disrespect and decoding the subtle signals that someone believes you are beneath them or no longer worthy of their full presence. It can appear as sarcasm that cuts deeper than a joke, eye rolls or dismissive sighs, a pattern of forgetting important details, or treating your needs and feelings as irrelevant. Contempt often grows slowly. It's the result of resentment, boredom, or a power imbalance that they think will never shift. But here's the truth. Contempt says far more about their insecurity and lack of maturity than it ever does about your value. Those who truly respect themselves never need to degrade someone else to feel powerful. When you start recognizing contempt for what it is, a mask for their own inadequacy, a way to avoid vulnerability, or a last-ditch attempt to control the narrative, you stop taking it personally and start strategizing. The person who holds you in contempt is quietly testing your boundaries, wondering if you'll fight for crumbs or stand tall and demand a seat at the table. They expect you to shrink, to justify, to question yourself. But when you see their behavior clearly and refuse to play the part they've written for you, you disrupt their entire sense of control. The first step in ending contempt is awareness, understanding that the problem is their emotional poverty, not your lack of worth. The moment you stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you, you begin to reclaim your power and make them question why they ever thought they could treat you as less. The worst mistakes most people make when facing contempt are always rooted in fear. Fear of abandonment, fear of not being enough, or fear of losing the relationship altogether. This fear drives people to beg for validation, over-explain their intentions, or chase after the very person who is looking down on them. Every desperate message, every long explanation, every "what did I do wrong?" only fuels the contempt and deepens the power imbalance. The truth is, people who treat you with contempt expect you to try harder, to jump through hoops for a scrap of approval, and to tolerate more disrespect each time you bend. But the more you chase, the more you teach them that their coldness is effective, that they can withhold love, attention, or basic respect, and you'll still show up, still try to win them back, still question your own worth. This cycle never ends on its own. It always escalates. The person holding contempt will push further, become colder, and make you feel even smaller, until you either break or wake up. And when you do finally stand up for yourself, they'll act surprised, sometimes even angry that you had the nerve to stop playing their game. That's why the real shift doesn't come from fixing their attitude or trying to prove you're worthy. It comes from breaking the pattern, refusing to justify, chase, or engage on their terms. The moment you stop making these mistakes is the moment their power over you starts to crumble, and you begin the journey back to self-respect, dignity, and silent strength. Silence and withdrawal are the first moves they never expect, because contemptuous people are used to being fed by your reactions, your need to explain, your emotional outbursts, your desperate attempts to fix what they're actively breaking. The moment you choose to stop participating, to become quiet and emotionally unavailable, You create a void that disrupts their sense of superiority and triggers deep uncertainty. Suddenly, their power game loses fuel. They start to wonder why you're not chasing, why your energy is missing, and what you might be doing now that doesn't involve them. This shift is more powerful than any confrontation or dramatic exit because it leaves them with their own emptiness instead of your validation. You don't need to make announcements, give ultimatums, or deliver some grand speech, just a calm, consistent withdrawal of attention, communication, and emotional investment. Silence is uncomfortable for those who crave control, and it forces them to face the loss of your presence, sometimes for the first time. Most importantly, this move signals to yourself that you will not beg to be respected. You are willing to remove yourself rather than argue for your worth. While they're left searching for new ways to provoke a reaction, you use the silence to rebuild your strength, reconnect with your standards, and remember that your energy is a privilege, not a given. This is where the dynamic starts to flip. You are no longer predictable, no longer available on demand, and for the first time, they are left with the consequences of their own contempt. You don't need to make announcements, give ultimatums, or deliver some grand speech. Just a calm, consistent withdrawal of attention, communication, and emotional investment. Silence is uncomfortable for those who crave control, and it forces them to face the loss of your presence, sometimes for the first time. Most importantly, this move signals to yourself that you will not beg to be respected. You are willing to remove yourself rather than argue for your worth. While they're left searching for new ways to provoke a reaction, you use the silence to rebuild your strength, reconnect with your standards, and remember that your energy is a privilege, not a given. This is where the dynamic starts to flip. You are no longer predictable, no longer available on demand, and for the first time, they are left with the consequences of their own contempt. Redefining your value is the silent revolution that forces them to question everything they thought they knew about you. And it begins the moment you stop waiting for their validation and start investing radically in yourself. Most people trapped in a cycle of contempt slowly lower their standards, lose their edge, and begin to doubt their own worth as the other person chips away at their confidence. But when you flip the focus and pour all the attention you used to give them into your growth, your health, your goals, your craft, your appearance, your peace, you become impossible to ignore, even in your absence. This isn't about posting for attention or flexing for a reaction. It's about building a reality so strong, so rich, that anyone who once looked down on you is forced to reevaluate what they lost. You level up not for them, but for yourself. Your circle tightens, your passions ignite, your self-talk shifts from doubt to certainty, and suddenly, the version of you they dismissed is gone forever. As your value rises, so does your energy, calmer, clearer, less available, and deeply attractive. They begin to question their own judgment, wonder if they underestimated you, and, if only privately, feel the sting of regret for taking you for granted. The ultimate flex is not showing them what you're doing. It's letting your evolution become undeniable. You redefine your worth by making yourself your priority, setting standards so high that contempt has no place in your world, and showing without a single word that you were always valuable, but now you're also untouchable. Elevating publicly while healing privately is the art of the silent glow-up, where you transform every ounce of pain or disrespect into undeniable progress, but never in a way that looks desperate for attention or designed to provoke a reaction. Most people, when hurt by contempt or rejection, either hide away or perform for the person who hurt them, overposting, flexing, or trying to show what they're missing. But true power is in letting your success speak for itself. You become visibly more confident, healthier, busier, and more joyful, not as a performance, but as a byproduct of genuine self-work. Your social presence, if you choose to share it, becomes more selective and intentional. You're seen with new friends, focused on new projects, radiating a calm that makes people curious, not suspicious. Behind the scenes, you heal deeply, process the pain, learn the lesson, and let go of needing validation from the very people who once looked down on you. The magic happens when you stop moving in reaction to them and start moving in alignment with your own mission. They see the changes, they feel your absence, and they begin to realize that losing access to you wasn't a short-term inconvenience, it was a permanent loss. The person they thought would always be around has leveled up and locked the door behind them without a single word. This is the art of glowing up in silence. Heal for yourself, elevate for your future, and let the regret set in for those who confused your kindness with weakness. Your life becomes proof that their contempt had nothing to do with your value and everything to do with their own limitations. Boundaries as punishment are not about revenge, but about setting new unspoken rules that make your self-respect impossible to ignore and force those who once showed contempt to finally confront your worth. After you've withdrawn and started elevating, the next step is to make it clear, through action, not words, that access to your time, energy, and presence is now earned, not expected. You don't announce this change, you live it. Replies become slower and less available, invitations are considered rather than automatically accepted, and you no longer engage with disrespect or tolerate behaviors that once slipped by. The person who once took you for granted is now met with a wall of quiet standards. You leave messages on read when they're manipulative, you politely decline plans that feel one-sided, and you hold to your schedule, goals, and routines even when they want you to break them. These new boundaries aren't about being cold, but about being clear. Your life is too valuable to negotiate for crumbs or compromise your peace. The discomfort your boundaries create for them is the real consequence of their past actions. They now face a version of you that will not bend, that does not argue, that does not flinch at withdrawal or guilt-tripping. Most can't handle this upgrade. They'll try to test you, provoke you, or lure you back into old patterns. But your silence and consistency speak louder than any confrontation ever could. Boundaries, enforced with calm and certainty, become the line they can't cross. And every time they run into that line, they're forced to face the new reality. The person they showed contempt is gone, replaced by someone they can never control again. Their regret, your reward. This is the inevitable turning point when contempt finally comes full circle and those who treated you as expendable are left with the weight of their own choices. When you stop chasing, elevate quietly, and enforce strict boundaries, you become the one who got away. The rare person whose absence creates more pain than their presence ever did. At first, they may not notice. Contempt breeds arrogance, and people convinced of your dependence expect you to come back, to fold, to beg. But as the silence stretches, as your life visibly improves and your energy is no longer theirs to consume, doubt creeps in. They start to wonder if they misjudged you, if the power they once held is gone for good, and if anyone else can ever fill the space you left. Regret is triggered not by your words, but by the results you create and the calmness with which you move on. Suddenly, memories of your loyalty, your warmth, and your uniqueness sting where they once felt secure. They may attempt to return, test the waters, or even provoke you just to see if you still care. But your indifference, your standards, and your joy without them are the answer. Their regret is your reward. It's proof that dignity and self-respect are more attractive than any performance, and that the one who can walk away silently is always remembered long after the desperate chaser is forgotten. This is where the tables turn, not through drama or revenge, but through the unbothered, upgraded life you build on the other side of their contempt. The ultimate power is walking away and never looking back, making your absence the final lesson and your evolution the only closure you'll ever need. When you've faced contempt, reclaimed your value, elevated your standards, and set boundaries that cannot be crossed, the final act isn't about getting even or proving your point. It's about releasing the need for validation or apology and stepping fully into your own future, with zero energy left for those who never deserved your presence. True closure isn't found in endless explanations, in open doors for what if, or in waiting for them to change. It's found in the decision to outgrow the entire dynamic. The person who can walk away quietly, never glancing over their shoulder, is the one who is remembered, missed, and respected by those who once took them for granted. Your life from this point forward becomes a testament to your self-worth. Every day you choose peace over drama, growth over revenge, and possibility over old wounds is a day you make it impossible for them to ever reach you again. You don't block to provoke a reaction. You block because your journey no longer includes them. You don't disappear to punish. You disappear to preserve your own potential. The greatest lesson you leave behind is not what you say, but how completely you vanish from their world, thriving so loudly in your silence that they are haunted by the memory of your self-respect. That's how you end their contempt for good, by becoming unavailable in every sense and letting your future answer every question they never had the courage to ask. If you're ready to end their contempt, stop arguing for your worth and start living like you never needed their approval in the first place. You owe it to yourself to refuse the role of the chaser, to let silence and growth do the talking, and to enforce boundaries so strong that regret becomes their only option. The most unforgettable power move isn't loud. It's the quiet exit, the upgrade in peace, and the life you build where their absence doesn't leave a scar, but a space for something better. Don't waste another day begging for basic respect. Become the lesson, not the warning. Walk away, never look back, and let your evolution be the regret they never saw coming. If this hit home, subscribe for more strategies that build unbreakable self-worth. Drop a comment about the turning point you're ready for, and share this with someone who needs to remember. The person with the highest standard always wins, in silence and for good.